coffee, and chocolate. Probably two of the most delightful foods known to humankind. At Just Us Coffee Roasters in Wolfville, Nova Scotia, they take coffee and chocolate very seriously. Just Us is a unique coffee roasting cooperative that uses only fair trade ingredients. Just Us uses only specialty-grade Arabica coffee beans, which come from the earliest known species of coffee tree. The beans themselves come from all over the world and are shipped from each region depending on the growing season. Each growing region has a unique flavor. The beans are either roasted as a single region coffee or mixed with other regional coffee beans to create a unique blend. Coffee beans are actually the seed from the fruit of the coffee tree. Before the beans are shipped to Just Us Coffee Roasters, the fruit is removed from the bean at the farm. Once the beans arrive at the Wolfville Roastery, they're roasted in small batches, filling orders as they come in. By doing this, there's no need to warehouse the roasted beans, and the coffee arrives at the store at its freshest. Just Us uses 2 vintage roasters for roasting all of their coffee beans. Once the roasters are warmed up and ready to go, a worker either pours the green beans into a hopper or pours them into a scoop system that brings the beans up to the top of the roaster, depending upon the roaster being used. When the roasters reach the desired temperature, the beans are released into a rotating propane oven that's set at a temperature of around 400 degrees Fahrenheit. This ensures that the beans are roasted evenly and don't burn. Most beans are roasted for about 10 to 14 minutes, depending on the required darkness of the bean. Darker beans will give a very different flavor than lighter roasts. The roasting process is both an art and a science. The science? That means keeping strict records of both oven temperatures and roasting times for each batch, so that the results can be duplicated the next time. However, even though they keep records of each roasting, it's still a matter of sampling and smelling the beans until they're ready. That's the art. As the beans roast, the chaff or outer skin peels off the beans and is deposited in a collector at the bottom of the roaster. This chaff is then used by local farmers as a replacement for sawdust in horse barns and other places. Once they're ready, the roasted beans are released into a cooling system that quickly cools the beans so it stops roasting as quickly as possible. This system stirs the beans as a vacuum pulls the heat away. Once the beans are cool, they enter the destoner. The destoner uses a vacuum to suck the beans into a hopper, leaving behind heavier items such as rocks that may have made their way into the bags of coffee beans. Once a batch is complete, the beans are poured into storage bins and sent to the packaging area. A sample from each batch of roasted beans is also set aside for quality tasting. This process is called cupping. Cupping is a standardized form of tasting that breaks down the flavor mechanics and nuances of roasted coffees. Experts will taste each batch in order to confirm the desired flavors and quality. If a batch tastes a little off, it is set aside for further inspection. Once the beans have gone through quality control, they're ready for packaging. The beans are packaged as either ground coffee that can be used immediately in a coffee maker, or as whole beans that can be ground on demand. In order to grind the coffee, the roasted beans are fed into a large industrial grinder. The ground coffee is then fed into a packaging machine below. The bags are made from a laminated plastic material and are designed to maintain the flavor until the bag is opened. Both the ground coffee and whole beans are measured by hand into the bags, then sealed using a heat sealing system. Finally, the bags are placed in boxes and sent to the shipping department for shipment to customers. Just Us also produces an assortment of fair trade chocolates. And who doesn't like chocolate? Most of the hard work is done off-site, leaving the folks at Just Us the final task of molding or forming the finished chocolate. The raw material comes in large blocks that have been formulated for Just Us by a chocolate manufacturer in Germany. First, the chocolatier places large chunks of chocolate into a temper machine. The temper machine melts and cools the chocolate to give it its structure and sheen. As the temper machine draws up the melted chocolate, the chocolatier captures it in either a bowl or mold, depending on what they're making. Here, we see the chocolatier making truffles. This is done by rolling the pre-made ganache filling and then dipping them in the chocolate. Bars and other molded items are also quite simple. The mold is first filled with chocolate, then placed in the freezer to cool. Once it's cooled, it's ready to be packaged and sold to the customer.